I'm Dr. Cécile Girardin. I'm at the University of Oxford. I work on nature-based solutions. And this week we've been employed here to paint a mural on the outcomes of the negotiations. So we're trying to capture what's happening in and around the negotiations. There have been many declarations, there have been many pledges outside of the realm of the negotiations of the Paris Agreement rulebook, but we're also trying to capture those pledges and those commitments from the finance and the private sector, as well as from governments, and we're trying to capture what the outcomes of this week's negotiations will be at the end of the week. So
Amazing.
The Glasgow Declaration and so forth.
It looks gorgeous. Tell us a little bit more about why you came to COP and how do you think it's going so far?
So the two reasons I came to COP, one was to capture these negotiations and try to put them in a format that's engaging, that can then be used as a bridge between what's going on in here in the Blue Zone and what's going on in the fringe events, and communicate what's really happening here in the Blue Zone in a way that's engaging and that might be a bit more approachable for people than the long lists of texts they've seen coming out of all this. And the second reason I'm here is to work on nature-based solutions and to make sure that the concept of nature-based solutions and all the complexities that go around it are start to be included in the text of the Paris Agreement, really. Well, not the text of the Paris Agreement, but the declarations that then feed into the Paris Agreement rulebook.
Definitely. Tell us a little bit more about your work with nature-based solutions. Why are they so critical, and what's the innovative next step in that domain?
Okay, so nature-based solutions are it's just important to recognize the link between climate change and biodiversity loss. And there has been a lot of criticism around nature-based solutions because the term has been used as a way of focusing on carbon. So using nature, tree planting or monoculture plantations as a way to capture carbon rapidly, so for rapid carbon gains, where in fact we need to protect this definition in terms of it being for carbon, biodiversity and people. And we need to make sure that the metrics of success of nature-based solutions, and there's been a lot of work on this over the past 3 years or more, around making a definition around nature-based solutions that ensures that the metrics of success are not purely carbon gains, but also carbon, biodiversity, and recognizing the importance of the social context these projects are developed in. So recognizing the importance of including local communities at every stage of the development of projects, and making sure that the local communities who are the stewards of nature, be it created ecosystems or natural or intact ecosystems, are at the center of this work.
I'm curious, there's been so much controversy over Indigenous peoples' access to the funding of nature-based solutions and land tenure.
Yes.
What do world leaders need to do to actually give Indigenous peoples the financing, the rights to receive the benefits of nature-based solutions and do what they do best, which is protect nature?
Yeah, so that's been a huge problem, the access to the funding. And even here, the negotiations started, the COP26 started very strongly with a lot of pledges from the private and finance sector, pledges for Indigenous peoples, pledges of finance for tropical rainforests, for specific countries, the Congo Basin, and all this funding. There is a lot of concern around this. The funding may be coming from the goodwill or the willingness to act, but who accesses these funds is a huge problem. And in terms of practice, is this funding going directly to governments, or is it going to be, will there be a mechanism for easy access from local communities to direct access to the funding, as there is in the Adaptation Fund? So for example, the Adaptation Fund, which is an official mechanism, finance mechanism of the Paris Agreement, has this mechanism for direct access from local communities. And there are a lot of questions around why wouldn't this funding that's being pledged go through the mechanisms of the Paris Agreement, for example. And a lot of these funds should go to adaptation. So we need to make sure there's a stream of the funding that go into mitigation as well as adaptation. We need to make sure that the stream of funding going to nature-based solutions goes to the right projects, and that means projects that monitor biodiversity as well as climate impact and impact on society. And there's just a lot of work to make this action, to turn this into action now, and to ensure that this funding is met, that these pledges are met in the long term. And then there are a lot of pledges that are made up to 2025. So what happens to long-term financing after that?
Amazing. Well, thanks for spelling that out for us. Just one final sentence. What do we need to do next? What do you want the world to know?
What I want the world to know. So I'm very happy that in the draft declaration of the draft of the Glasgow Declaration that came out this morning, we have the term nature-based solutions in two places. One of them is under mitigation, the other is under adaptation. So we'd like to keep it like that. And this is important because if the text is there, if the declaration specifically recognizes the term nature-based solutions, on our side we're working really hard with a lot of organizations to make sure that the term is protected, that we have clear definitions and guidelines on what this means, and what this means for biodiversity, for social equity, and for climate, as I keep on saying, but this is important to repeat it. The other big point is keep fossil fuels in the ground, so we need to make sure that nature-based solutions are not taken as an excuse to continue emitting, and also recognize the limits of the mitigation potential of these solutions.
Dr. Cécile, thank you so much. Thanks for bringing your full self, your science, your art. We appreciate you so much.
Thank you. Thanks.